Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by Onyx Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is Onyx Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, Onyx Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust Onyx Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about Onyx, go to onyxmaps.com/hunt and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. All right, guys, if you're in the market for a new hunting rifle this coming year, look no further than a Kelbley's rifle. I've been rocking their Coda rifle for the last couple seasons, and I've had great success with it. It's an amazing shooter, and every time I put one of their rifles in somebody's hands, they're like, oh, I got to get one of these. Kelbley's holds over 92 world and national records that are either broken or set on one of their actions or rifles. So they really set a higher level of accuracy. If you want to know more about Kelbley's rifles, go to kelbley.com. That's KELBLY.com. Tell them Johnny Mack sent you with Soul Seekers, and go enjoy shooting that much more in this coming hunting season. Be blessed, everybody. Go check out Kelbley Rifles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today's guest is a cool dude and someone who's kindred spirit in the world of being an adult onset hunter. I don't really like that term anymore. I feel like it's been getting used so much. Just somebody who said, I am choosing me. I want to learn how to hunt. And we didn't have the mentor, the father figure, the grandpa, the family lineage of hunters to teach us. And they ended up going about this on their own later in life. And so when I met our guest at SHOT Show this last year, I was like, wow, I got to get you on the podcast. Well, he's a busy man because he's the director of business development at Nosler, Mr. John Nason. Sorry about that, John. But anytime I meet somebody with the name John, you know he's a good person because, it's just inherent within us. So anyways, without further ado, we're going to invite John Nason on. We're going to talk about his journey of becoming a hunter and now working in the hunting industry and everything that goes along with that. So, brother, John, thanks for coming on the show, man. How you doing?
Man, thanks for staying up late for me. This is awesome.
Dude,
I'm really good.
Podcasting at night, I have 3 kids, 3 small boys, and sometimes it's nice to have a quiet house, right?
I'm just impressed because when my kids went to bed, I was right behind them. It was such an exhausting adventure of my life. Like I remember, I got a lot more energy now. So,
and you're a father of 4 kids.
I am very fortunate.
Man,
yep,
that's
4 kids and an amazing wife that still to this day, even though they are all out of the house, like she still puts up with me.
Man, that's awesome. That's special. It's hard. I was a child of 2. I have one other sibling, and so going into parenthood and you're like, okay, well, two kids is good, right? Like the world is made for families of 4 or even numbers. All of a sudden you throw that oddball in there and it's like, okay, well, somebody's got to wait to go on a ride with the other kiddo or who's sitting out on this
always
one.
Sit in the middle.
So, but it's very impressive when I see people that have larger families, lots of kids, and husband and wife are still married and invested in each other. And, I'm a huge fan of the nuclear family, huge supporter of it. So it was one of my really eye-opening, maybe judgmental views of the hunting world is that if you wanted to make it, whether it's, in podcasting, hunting, TV, media, I guess, or if you just really wanted to be really good at hunting, then oftentimes the marriage has really suffered. And I told my wife, I was like, I want to make sure like you come first. I'll give up hunting and walk away from it any day. And we've had to have that conversation multiple times, um, because hunting is not a hobby for me. It is me. We are one. It is it's hard to really put words to it, but you picked it up later in life. You sacrificed some passions and desires of your own. Um, let's get into it, brother. When did you find
Just do
hunting?
it.
When did you find hunting?
Man, I was in high school when I really found that I loved it, but I was loving it through the lenses of my friend group. They were going hunting during hunting season with their families, like big family outings. They'd leave for deer camp, and then 2, 3 weeks later they'd leave for elk camp, and they'd be gone from school and come back with just these. Some families would go together, and they'd have like this bond when they came back, and these stories that growing up with like my parents were divorced. My dad was a colonel in the army, so we were stationed all over the place. We spent summers with them, but we lived here with my single mom who didn't have much. She did her absolute best, but we weren't going hunting anytime soon. I mean, we weren't even going to summer camp. It was like all that she could do for her two giant savage boys was to feed us. So I watched these groups of like my friends become men, and I was so envious. I mean, I remember just being like, who cared about spring break in Mexico that we also didn't go to? It was hunting camp from the minute I got to high school, where I'm like, I can't invite myself, but I wish they would take me. But I had, I was the kid of a single mom. You don't get invited on a hunting trip. You don't own a rifle. You don't have anything. That those families, as sweet as they were, they're not going to outfit you with a bunch of gear, and they weren't super well off either. So they were going to feed their families. They weren't going on some like fun, giant bull elk hunt. They were going out to kill the first thing they thought they found, and it was to feed their families. And when they came back, the stories were incredible. I was just in love with the stories that they brought back.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I was able, I bought my first gun when I was 16 here, like at a local hardware store back in, was that 90? I bought a shotgun because I knew that I could go, like, I could get in with my guy friends. We could go out and shoot some birds. So that was my first. Then I bought a 22, like just a 22 long rifle. I remember Ruger 1022. It's like my first one. And I had to sell both of those at some point to like put myself through school. But I remember just never being able to attain that goal of getting to freaking elk camp. That's all I ever wanted. And it was finally when I started elk hunting just outside of our little town here in Oregon,
Yeah.
like day hunts. I would go out and come back because I didn't have any camping stuff. I mean, at that time I drove like an old piece of shit Jetta. I'm not going to sleep in my Jetta. It would barely make it up into the mountains. I'd come home from, I was playing college football, so I couldn't go to elk camp at that point. And so when I got done with school, I remember being focused on, okay, first thing I did, I bought a Remington 30-06 when I could save up enough money to do it. And then I I didn't even know the model of the scope, but it was like a Coke bottle, and started day hunting. And it wasn't until really I had my kids that I'm like, okay, like I'm going to make this happen for them.
Mm.
I thought forever my whole life I was going to be that overbearing dad football coach that just made my boys play football until they hated me. But it was the opposite. Like I said, no, even if you're playing football, I'll tell your coach, I don't give a shit what his season looks like. We are going hunting for a week in November, and it doesn't matter if you're in the playoffs, we're leaving. So I was able to give that to my kids, and they will tell you it's still some of the like, most incredible memories we ever had.
Mm.
I mean, we have so many pictures in our house, but most of them are from my kids and I hunting. I mean, my wife wasn't even there. God bless her. She doesn't want to go. She loves being at home by herself. But like these this house is full of like really cool stories because of that urge to go find what I always yearned for when I was like in high school and junior high. Like, I want to do that. Why can't I do that? So it was good. I'm glad nobody ever invited me because it gave me that passion to go get out, go and earn it. Like you just decide one day, like, no one's going to hand me this. It's way too difficult and unattainable when you're first going for it. So why would somebody hand me such a
Hmm.
incredible gift? So I was really intrigued when I met you because you're actually trying to hand people that gift, which is really not that unattainable. Once you are where we are looking back, being like, oh, you could do that. Let me show you 5 easy steps to get here
Right.
that you don't need to know a big boys group. You don't need to be part of a club. You don't need to like have some sensei that'll walk you to a special elk in the woods. Like just go out and get it. And it'll take some time and some effort. But if you put that time and effort in, that's when it is really like, that's when it really pays off because you fill your own freezer. No one showed you how to do that. No one told you how to horribly gut that first deer. I think I got like 2 pounds of meat from that first deer. Like so terrible. I probably made everyone sick. I can't even fathom how I did that. It was terrible, but like it's attainable. You just got to do it.
Yeah. That's a really interesting story, and this is one of the things of why I created my mission of mentorship as conservation is this idea of I don't care if you were the son of a single mom at the time. Why weren't your friends inviting you to camp? And I'm not going to should on people and be like you should have done this, you should do that or whatever. I don't believe in shoulds. But if people want hunting to last, where's the community? Because that's what it's all about. We are communal. Human beings are meant to be in community, right? And you see a child of a single parent households, like, what better way to really put your arm around them and bring them into the fold and be like, hey, here's a community for you. It's not gangs, it's not mischief, it's not getting caught up in things that aren't for the long haul. Here's a life skill for you. Let me show you how to feed yourself. And let me show you how to feed your
Yep.
family.
And I can't look back at that, but I can only look forward. And we've done that. Like Noah and I, we've taken like young men hunting, kids that he played football with that had single moms. That I mean, I never went up to a kid and like, you want to learn how to hunt? It was always like, in both cases, like, hey, Matt really wants to learn how to hunt. Like, all right, let's go. He can have my deer tag. Like, let's. I mean, I remember the first kid we took hunting. The boys were freshmen, and we had to drive to Pendleton, Oregon, for their freshman football game on Thursday night. And I had already had camp set up in the Ochocos, so I went and watched them play football. They slept for the 5.5 hours to camp. We got to camp at like 3 in the morning. They slept for an hour. I mean, they slept the whole time. I slept for an hour. We got up and we hunted for 3 days. It was like, I mean, haven't talked to that kid really since he graduated because COVID happened. Like he went in the Marines, and I hope that 4-day period like helped him become a better human being. Because I know it helped me become a better human being by showing him just the stuff that who knows if it was right, but he didn't know any different. Like we saw all kinds of shit. We saw cougars, stuff he would have never seen before. He
Wow.
saw we had a 5x5 bull elk bugle at us in deer season, which I had never heard an elk at that point bugle like that late. And it was like he was right in front of us in this snowy meadow. And I remember looking at him being like, man, if you weren't here, nobody would believe us that this even happened. Cause it's like a movie. It looks like we're in Narnia. It was bananas. And then the first deer he saw, we're deer hunting, and he's like, there's a deer. And it was like 100 yards away. The deer looked at us and up the mountain. And I just started laughing. I laughed. It was just hysterical. I mean, why would you get upset with that? And then you say, like, hey, man, next time you see a deer, like, that's what we're trying to take home. So, little, little more caution. But that's how you learn. Young kids slam doors, and 16-year-old kids like yell out in excitement. So
That is so
it was
awesome.
it was awesome. And anytime I get to pass that on, just like you, I mean, not as like your movement is pretty spectacular, but for my little part of the world, like anytime we can help myself and Nosler, like we do a lot for young hunters to get them into the woods, to help them get over that hurdle of like, I don't have a dad, grandpa legacy that's going to take me in the woods and show me their spot. So we do everything we can to be that legacy for them and pass that down, whatever we can. And that's not just me. There's many employees, of the hundreds of employees that we have, that will donate their time, effort, money to make sure that the youth of today are learning those lessons, putting their freaking phones down and getting out into the wilderness and learning what life is really about.
Yeah.
Because as you've learned, that's what life is about.
Oh, so true. And that was one of the things, and we talked about this before we started recording. I played college football as well. My father is a state of Washington Hall of Fame football coach. It was sports. It was all. And
All the time.
one day, either you leave the game or the game leaves you. Right? How many times have you heard that
Yep.
before?
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. I probably have, but the game left me when I had concussion. So probably don't remember it. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, yeah, and the idea is like, man, how many years of hunting can we continue to do? Like and this is a part of like being healthy, right? And taking care of my body and stuff. I want to be able to get up to those mountain peaks when my kids are my age, right? Like, yo, dad still got it. You know what I mean? Because I want to live. Life is meant to be lived and experienced. And sports is awesome and it can teach us a lot of things. But if we put our identity in something that is temporary, then we end up being a very sad soul and we end up feeling empty, lost, looking for a connection, community, looking for love. And this world, with the way it's going, will fill that need very quickly, but it's not going to be filled with the best stuff for your soul and your heart and your mind.
Yeah. No, it was funny. I was talking to my youngest daughter who's in Salt Lake, um, right before I talked to you. And she was talking about something and she's like, trauma. And she was making fun of it because she knows that I make fun of it all the time. Because my youngest daughter has hunted with me the most. She's killed the most. She's killed more than anyone in this family. And she understands what like being wrapped up in nature means. It means trauma is just a word. Like it means that, when you talk about anxiety, like that word when I was young meant like you need to go to the doctor. Like you have something wrong. Nowadays, they get nervous about something or they have to give a speech. They struggle with anxiety. And I'm like, that's not anxiety. That's just fucking nervous. You're just nervous. It's part of being a human being. It's the same feeling you felt in the woods before you started hunting with that bear. Nowadays, they call it like they give it a term so you can medicate it.
Yeah.
But when we grew up, it was just like you either need to be brave and step up to whatever's scaring you or go away. There's no in between and there's no medicine that fixes it. It's either stand up and look it in the eye or get out.
Yeah.
And kids don't know that nowadays. It's a real shame. It's a bummer. We have tried to raise, I say that my wife is a force of nature when it comes to that. We have raised our kids to be present no matter where they're at. Like, yes, they're on the phones, 100%. We're not idiots. But like when we are at the dinner table every night, when they are home or when all growing up, like they are in the moment right now. You get to live in this family. I don't want you in somebody else's family.
Yeah.
And they've learned more than that they can do anything they want in the woods. Like, and we always said that. And that's a cliche around the whole world. Like, don't tell your mom what happens at elk camp. And it's true because you get to do whatever you want. Like you're going to get up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, no matter what you do. So you'll learn real quick
how to make good choices.
Yeah. And the woods will teach you. 7 miles in the snow is going to teach you a lesson if I don't have to.
It's so true. There's a Christian group, maybe I forget who it is, maybe Mercy Me or whatever. They do a song like "You were made to be courageous" is the main lyrics of the song.
Yep.
And it's like, well, yeah, but where's our courage? Where's humanity's courage to say no, to say this is what I want, this is how I'm gonna live, right? Like 2020, COVID was a wake up call for a lot of people. And for me personally, to look around and be like, oh, okay, well, I see where people stand. I see,
Were you still in Washington?
I was still in Washington. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were in the terrible.
I was in it. And if people took the jab, whatever, everybody gets to make their own choice. But when the government said, take this or get fired, I was like, you can kick rocks because I know where my sovereignty lies. I know what I stand for. I know what I believe in. And no one is ever going to come save me. I have to be able to save myself. And as the leader of my household, I owe it to myself to be in alignment and be in integrity of where I stand so that I can actually lead my wife, lead my children, hold them accountable and teach them to be courageous that it doesn't it's not as bad as you think it is, right? It's it's only temporary. It's only temporary.
Yep. I loved COVID. I thought it was awesome. My kids all came home for like a year, and we're all so tight, and all their friends came over to our house every night. And it wasn't like catching them smoking joints. It was like catching them like playing board games where I'm like, are you guys really that? Like, I'm sure they did the other stuff too, but like our house was like this gathering place of kids that were not afraid.
Yeah.
Nobody had mask on. Like they knew our stance. They've always known our stance, but like they knew that we're not like I'm not running from whether it was truly a deadly virus or not. Like I'm not gonna sit in a cave and die. Like I'm gonna die living every single day, whether it was COVID or not. And that was way before COVID. So COVID was rad. We spent a ton of time in the woods. We went, I don't know, like a 5-week vacation to the ocean, and nobody cared because you couldn't go to work anyway. I wasn't with Nosler. I owned my own company at the time, so it was a little easier. I don't know if Nosler would be down with me disappearing for 5 weeks, but it was, I don't know. Everyone else's fear and terror really opened up the lanes for this family. It was awesome.
And it made you realize what people don't know, right?
Oh,
So
cowards.
yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone. I
No,
really don't, but
that
that
word
is my
that
true thought about it.
that word needs to be used more. I was a coward before I started hunting. I was afraid. I was a scared little boy mentality. Daddy, help me. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to, like I didn't grit my teeth and say, "Mother trucker, let's go. Let's figure this out." Like the old
Yeah,
American ingenuity of like, well, if it was made by man, it can be fixed by man. Or what do we need to get through this? I I
yeah. We're
I
all cowards. I mean, everyone starts off that way. That's why, like, the Indians would let their like kids go into the woods. They'd force them into the woods at a young age and be like, "Good luck. We'll see you in 2 days." Like, you realize a whole lot of shit about yourself. I'm assuming when you're like 11 or 12, and like I feel like we're all cowards, but the country, every angle of this world, like it's teaching us to be medicated, like coddled, put a blankie around you. Like you don't need to exercise, there's a pill for it. You don't need to feel anxiety, there's a pill for it. You don't need to do like instead of the hard work and like sucking it up and feeling pain, which just leads to more joy. They just don't realize that. They're like the more you see the bottom, the top looks a lot better.
yeah.
I just I hate that. So I think the fact that you think you were a coward, I don't think that's abnormal. I think that's awesome that you looked it in the face and said, "Nope, I'm going to do this." And that could be utilized on hundreds of different points across our entire society. Like
Mhm.
it's such a great thing that you're doing.
Well, the interesting thing is I truly believe humanity doesn't know itself. People don't know themselves. If I said, "Hey, who's John Nosler, John Nason, excuse me, who's John Nason?" You know, people describe themselves like, "Well, you know, I'm a teacher, or I'm a businessman, or I like." But who are we inside? Like everything else is just an attribute. Like who are we as in alignment with ourselves and what we're created to be? I'm a believer in God and that we're made in His image, and if God is all powerful and we're made in His image, then that means we are really powerful, like really powerful, and we get to own that power. And not only that is if He's also the creator and we're made in His image, then we're little mini creators of our own, co-creators with him in this world. And so if we're not creating, if we're not doing, if we're not applying ourselves for the betterment of ourselves, our family, our society, then we're actually not living a true life. Like what's the purpose of life? Well, to create, to
Yeah, you're either leading or you're being led.
yeah.
Like there's no in between.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what people say. If you're sitting there feeding off that nightly news, and I don't care what station it is, if you're feeding off that like massive marketing campaign that they're all feeding you all the time, like you're just dumb.
Yeah.
You go out and find the truth. Like, and I personally like to find it in the woods. I like to like read a lot. I know that's part of your job, but like social media is just not my thing. I don't,
I hate it, man.
and it's not because I don't. I just like everybody. I'm not dumb. I love looking at like, oh God, that's cool. Look at that guy's elk. Look at that cool story. Look at that. Oh, that officer saved himself. Like, but I get the feeling every time that I'm in that phone looking at it that I'm spending time away from my family
Mm,
and the people that I love. And I don't mean just my family here. Like I am a firm believer. It's tattooed on my arm and it says blood does not define a family, because I have a really close group of people that I've been family with my entire life that have no blood relation to me at all.
yeah.
And I'm going to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And if they want to send me pictures, like if they want to send me videos, and that's kind of with my friend group, like they just send me stuff. I'm not going to tag anybody. I don't want anybody else to see it. I want those 4 guys to see it and my wife and kids. Like we have that family group chat, which I thought when my kids were teenagers that I would never do that, because God forbid what they would send me I'd probably go on a rampage. And now that they're grown-ups, it's pretty fun. Like that's my fun. It's like I look so forward to seeing that little text message that my group chat from my family, like somebody sent something and it's just big. Yeah, I know I went off on a tangent there, but I'm with you. Like I feel like living in the moment is so important, and so many of us like just don't do that. They're just spoon fed. Doesn't even mean their lies. They're just spoon fed all the time,
Hmm.
but they're consuming somebody else's truth. And what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do a podcast. We talked about this before. I'm not ever going to do a podcast with somebody that I don't respect. I
Mm,
don't care how many likes you have, because I don't give a shit about likes. Like my 112 Instagram friends probably won't move the needle for anyone. But I do have to look at my kids later and say, I was on this podcast, and they're going to say, why and who was it? And I'm going to have to explain it.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what I want them consuming, is the truth that you and I are talking about. And I wouldn't be talking to you unless I had gotten some highly great from some amazing people recommendations that
Ah,
you speak the truth, and that everything about you is, when I met you, I almost thought it was fake because we had so much in common. I'm like, there is no way that like football coach, late hunter, kids, like all the things. And it was refreshing. So I'm glad to find out that it's also true, because sometimes it's not.
I appreciate it. Yeah, well, it's extremely disappointing when you wake up to reality of the life not being what you thought it was. That was, I haven't spoken with my father in quite some time. He's never even met my youngest son, and it's sad to say because um, I was his mini me, and that was a part of what led me into hunting. Is like I always did everything for other people's satisfaction, but acceptance. I craved love, affirmation, attention, and I didn't know how to go within and find it and uh, be okay with just being me. And so when I chose hunting, I chose myself, and that is one of the things that I really want this message to get out to all the listeners is you don't have to do anything out of guilt or shoulds, right? Oh, well, I should do this because my parents really want me to do this, or I should do that because my boss really wants me to do this. Like, what do you want? What do you want? Go get it. Go get it. I saw something on social media because social media has its pros and cons, right? There was this video of this dad running down the road and with his kid, And this kid, little, like maybe a 12-year-old boy, was running with his dad. And they stop for a second. The dad uh, looks at the kid, and the kid looks at the dad. And kid goes, "Dad, you've been telling me all my life that I can be and do whatever I want. So is sitting in a cubicle staring at a computer what you wanted? Is that, are you living your goals, your dreams, your aspirations?" And when I saw that video, it was like, whoa, sledgehammer to the chest.
Right.
Because how many people are settling? How many people are not thriving and they're just surviving? You
And
know,
they're stuck. At least they think they're stuck.
they think they're
Like,
stuck.
what else am I going to do? I make this good money and I can't do that. Yeah. It's, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you can go do it. Like, I am a prime example because I have failed at lots of things, including my own business. Like, I have been at the bottom of the barrel as far as like money. And you find that support group of people that love you. It doesn't have to be a wife or your kids. Like, it could be your friend group or like your parents or your brother and sister. Like, find that group to support you, not financially, just to let you know, like,
Yeah.
that was awesome or that was stupid, and go get what you want. You
Mhm.
don't have to sit in that cube all the time. That's a bummer that people. It's true because we're all so locked into all of our things that we love that have a payment, but at the same time, like, it took me like 45 years to learn that. When that's only 5 years ago that I was like, I don't necessarily care about that stuff. I'd rather have my kids have nice stuff and my wife, and all I need is stuff that will make sure I don't die in the backcountry. Like,
Right.
which sometimes that's just really expensive, but
Very
like,
true.
yeah, like, it's not just a water bottle. Once it gets to 10 degrees, we're talking a different level of sleeping bag, which I got to save up for. It was crazy.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Um, so I work right now. Well, actually, let me back up here for a second. I moved to Texas. I moved my family 2,000 miles to a place I've never even been to before.
I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad
Ne-
you're talking about that.
Never even been to it. And I remember a buddy of mine in Washington was like, "Man, I think you're making a big mistake, you know?" And I thought to myself a lot of the times, and I'm like, man, I could give in to the power of what other people think and do. But how cool is it to be a reverse pioneer and just be like, man, I'm going into the unknown. My family and I were taken off, and we got each other, and we can lean into each other. And it's been challenging and it's been difficult. And we're happy. And we ate dinner together as a family tonight at the dinner table. And we eat breakfast in the mornings before we go off to work and school. And when you don't have crutches to lean on, it's really fulfilling and rewarding. It's difficult, but it's powerful.
Yep. The most difficult things bring the best rewards. And we all know that. Like, it's just like the bottom of the valley. You've seen the bottom of the valley, you know how important the top looks.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty awesome to get to the top. But if you're always in the middle and you're never afraid, you never go up or down, it's pretty boring.
Ain't
So,
that the truth? So
yeah. And you can't get to the top without going to the bottom.
well,
And I
so
really do believe that.
that leads me to what I was going to tell you about. So I was a PE teacher, football coach up in the state of Washington. Well, down here, I was like, I'm getting out of teaching. I'm getting out of teaching. I don't want to teach anymore. And I don't know if it's the universe or God or whatever, but I'm meant to be in teaching currently somehow because I got back into teaching, but I'm working in an alternative school where we have a metal detector, kids wear uniforms, no windows, kids aren't allowed to get out of their seat, they sit in their chair all day long. Uh, the 80% of my clientele that comes to my school will be in prison, and if you work backwards from prison, 90% of the Texas prison population went to my type of school, which, which like, wow. But the interesting thing is that victim mentality is oozing from the clientele that show up to my school. And when I see that across society as well, is, you know, oh, I'm never going to be good. I can't. I won't. Whatever it is. Like if you speak it, it will come to fruition, right? If you're not good enough and you say, I'm not good enough, well, you're not good enough then. The power of the spoken word is so huge. In the Bible it says, out of the mouth proceeds, life and death. Life and death lies in the tongue. And so either you are speaking life into yourself, into your family, into your future, into your career, your hobbies, your passions, or you're speaking death. And why am I talking about this? Because it's applicable to hunting. It's applicable to what we want, how to move forward, and we're not stuck. No one's going to come save us. You got to save yourself.
Yeah, 100%. You got to tell me. You got to tell me. Um, I want to know about the animals that you've like. It's been 10 years, which is
Yeah.
now. I mean, that's a hunting career by this point. So, give me the rundown. Like, I want to know the top couple animals that you've harvested, and I want to know what's on your bucket list.
You're
I
funny.
know we're going to reverse it. You know I was going to do it, but I find people that I find fascinating. I just do. So I'm going to ask questions.
Well, I appreciate it because I want to ask. I want to get into some stuff with you as well as regards to like what did sports teach you and football teach you into building into your hunting career and all that. But so the very first animal was black bear. I was a bear hunter before anything else. Up until this last November, we're living here in Texas. I only have ever shot one branch antlered deer. I shot a nice little basket 8-point whitetail in Washington. That
That's sweet.
wouldn't even be legal as a legal buck down here in Texas. So
Yeah, I'm not a trophy guy. So to me, it's about the story and the character, not even the
yeah.
character of the animal, the character of the person that shot it. So I think that's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. I got a lot of stories that go with my animals. This can you see this elk behind me?
I can. I didn't until you said that. The light was like I kind of wonder what it was, but I was
It kind
because
of
of my.
there's
Yep,
this horrible glare there.
I can
Anyways,
see it now.
so my very first I've killed 2 elk, both of them archery. My very first year archery hunting. I'm going to back it up. It was the month of January 2018. And Land of the Free series by Born and Raised came out, the very first one. And I was training for a marathon at the time, and I'd run on my treadmill after my little kiddos were in bed, and I'd watch Land of the Free on our TV in our garage, and they were just smoking bulls left and right. And I'm a fan and a sucker for symmetry. Like trash and nasty, gnarly is cool, but I love symmetry, beautiful. And I'm running on the treadmill watching this, and I'm like, I'm going elk hunting this year. I'm going elk hunting this year. You know what? I'm buying a bow, and I'm going to go shoot a 6x6 branch antlered, beautiful bull elk. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I don't know how. I've never done it before. Uh, I've been trained in through my leadership academies that I've gone to that we don't worry about the how, you worry about the what. If you want it bad enough, you got to know what you want. Uh, the how will take care of itself. So I'm there. I'm envisioning me shooting this big bull, and come this September, or that September, I ended up finding a guy who I had an AR-10 because that was my first hunting rifle. My first deer rifle
It's a great round.
was a 308. It was a Christensen Arms CA-10 back when like AR-10s were very rare. Now they're a little less expensive than they were, but I put it up for sale, and I had a guy said, "Hey, I run an outfit. Um, I'll take you in on horseback and set you up in a camp for an elk hunt for your rifle." And I was like, "Dude, no way! Like the stars are aligning for this." So I trade him the rifle. We pick dates, all that stuff. And come September, I was thinking this guy was going to be guiding me. Uh, he's late to the trailhead. Like I'm calling him, being like, "Hey, is this for real? Is it actually still happening? He shows up late. He's like, yeah, yeah, I'm not guiding you. And I don't even really feel like it was guided, honestly. I felt like he provided me a tent. I got to ride a horse in. And then from there, it was, I had this,
Good luck, buddy.
I had this dude that was at camp that was super sketchy and like a little tweaky. And so my buddy who flew from North Dakota to Washington to come hunt with me on my very first archery elk hunt, he's like, dude, we're on our own, man. This guy is is a keep your wallet close to you type thing.
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with those type of humans.
So we make it in, and day one we start hiking and we get into some nice elk sign, fresh, but it's right near like a campsite. And at this time, there's a lot of fires in the state of Washington because they don't manage their timber properly. But that's another topic.
But it
And
is an important topic,
it is
and you're
very important.
100% right.
And so they were diverting a lot of hunters down a trail that brought them to where we were hunting. So we back out, wind wasn't right, and some hikers come down this trail and we're like, hey, you know, and this is a really good teaching point because it feels like a lot of my early career I had interactions with anti-hunters or non-hunters from the get-go. And so I always felt like I didn't know what to say because I haven't been doing this long enough. I can't defend hunting because I don't have the right words, or I don't have the experience or the knowledge or uh but what that really shows is that to say nothing is to say something. And so when you lead with your heart, when you lead with passion, um, you may not need to be the most articulate or eloquent as long as you are being true. And so I'm talking to these hikers. I'm like, guys, yeah, I used to work at REI. Tell me about your hike. How long are you going? How far? Really trying to build that relationship, some rapport with them. I'm like, I'm hunting right here. There's elk sign, and they're gonna be in here.
Yeah,
Would you,
shit's about to blow up. You guys better watch out.
yeah, would you please not camp here? I understand it's camping, hiking, camping is like first come, first serve. We are specifically not camping here because of this. Um, can you just there's another nice campsite down the trail a little further. Can you do that? They said no. And they went and camped and they were as loud as possible intentionally. And at that moment, I was like, wow, hunters are hated by people who do not understand hunting. Like truly just disrespectful. And it hit me very quickly. And so I was like, man, okay, now what? Now what are we gonna do? So we back out and trying to put a plan together. Never see any elk that day. Well, my buddy, he was from North Dakota. We drew straws for who was first shooter. Like, hey, you're first shooter day one. I'm first shooter day two. We'll go like that. Well, his was day one when we ran into the hikers, and so he missed his opportunity. Well, day two rolls around, and we end up hiking past this camp. They're looking at us. It's early morning. They're just waking up, and we're already geared up and heading out. And it wasn't but a quarter mile right past that camp where we bumped a couple cows going uphill, and uh, let out a couple cow calls, and we got a roundup bugle, and we cut them off. And all of a sudden, it was game on. And that was the very first time I've ever heard a bugle in the elk woods, or in the woods in general. And I was like, oh my gosh,
It's pretty intoxicating.
it's incredible.
Yeah, there's
It
nothing like it.
Nothing like it. And so these cows are gone, and I'm shooter. I'm the shooter. It's my day, and my buddy's up the trail to the right, and our guy who's hanging out with us, which by the way, this is a whole another side story, but he's like, hey man, uh, I'm really really, oh, what do you call it? When you don't do certain things, like don't step on the line, or I'm losing the word right now. Superstitious.
Superstitious?
Yes, superstitious. He's like, I'm really superstitious. So if you got a knife on you, leave it at camp. If you got kill kit, leave it at camp. If we're prepared, if we're not prepared to kill something, we're gonna kill something. like
Genius move.
I'm like, okay, man, whatever, but I'll play along because I don't know I don't know anything. As such a newbie. Well, this bull comes down and I just see this vine maple just shaking. I can't see the elk. I just see this vine maple just thrashing, and my heart is instantly just boo, 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 boo. I'm like, okay, stay calm, stay calm. And all of a sudden, I see antler tips, and the antler tips come down, and never counted tips. I never counted points. All I knew is I listened to a podcast one time, and the person was like, whatever you do, don't look the animal in the eye. And I'm like, okay, head down, like kind of like I'm looking at you, but I'm not really looking at you. And all of a sudden, this head popped up over this knoll, and this elk in all its majesty is just staring right down, saying, all right, where's that cow? And where's that bull that's trying to steal my cow? My buddy, who is up the trail from me, has a perfect 40-yard broadside shot at this elk.
But it's not his day.
But it's not his
Right?
day. It is
That's
not
right.
his day. And so my arrow's knocked, and when I see the head pop up, as soon as that head starts to pop up, I went full draw. And so I'm full draw on this elk and just pins on its forehead. And I'm like, oh my, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, I was running on a treadmill watching Land of the Free series by Born and Raised. This is what it's all about. This is actually happening. So my buddy doesn't shoot, but before that morning, he goes, whatever you do, don't front shoulder the elk. Do not shoot it in the front shoulder. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, got it. Never archery hunted before this. Never. I've only killed one animal prior to this. Like, we got this. So this elk comes over this knoll, and I'm just holding full draw and shaking as much as possibly that I can control. And I'm like, okay, do circles.
What? How long ago was that?
That was in 2018. 2018.
Oh, so even then, your let off is going to be. I mean, technology every year, I feel like advances with bows like to an incredible degree.
Yeah. So this elk comes down and just screams right in front of me, and I got probably like a 20-yard shot. It's standing broadside, but I'm shaking so bad that I'm like, I can't shoot. And my buddy's looking at me, being like, and he told me this afterwards. He's like, man, if you didn't shoot, I was gonna be so pissed at you. And so I finally like steady my bow just enough, and I rip that arrow, and all I hear is a whack,
The
and
thud.
the thud, and that arrow hit nothing but front shoulder blade, and but it crippled that leg. It broke its leg so bad that it came downhill, and I was able to knock another arrow, and the bull goes down below me in this little creek area, and we get it to stop. And without ranging it, just looking at it, I was like, okay, this got to be about 30 yards. I send it, and I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm not getting a second chance again. Send it. Whack! I hear like it sounds like I hit a tree. And I am like, no way I hit a tree. I have no idea where my arrow went. Like, I was on the elk, and the elk runs off. My buddy comes running up to me. He's like, where did you put that first arrow? I was like, front shoulder. He goes, where'd you put that second one? I go, I don't know, but it sounded like I hit a tree. And he was just furious, like fuming, because he had that bull at broadside at 40 yards and could have smoked it. Needless to say, I double lunged that bull on the second shot, and my arrow was sticking in a tree on the other side of it. And that bull ended up dying about 50 yards away, and it's a Pope and Young, measured just shy of 305.
Sweet, dude. That's killer. Those are the stories that like make the world go round, and that makes me feel like no matter what is going on the planet, stories like that, I feel like everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, and that
Like
that
that kind of shit still happens, and it's just freaking beautiful. I love that.
a lot of people say, "Oh, beginner's luck, beginner's luck." Maybe so. I like to attribute it to the whole idea of like you can never outgive good. When you put good out into the world, it's naturally going to boomerang back to you. We don't know
Yep.
when or how, but at some point. Um, so tell me a little bit about your what you learned in football because you played at a high level. Very small.
Well, I played in high school in Central Oregon. I thought I was pretty awesome, but like a very average in the overall scheme of things. I was a very average football player with a very above average drive. Single mom, oldest son. Like I wanted to get out of my house and like I said before, I wanted to be at L camp. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be in the NFL. I thought all kinds of but I didn't have anyone to tell me no,
Yeah.
except for counselors, teachers, people that are supposed to tell you no. But I didn't listen. I just said, I'm going to do what I want. And my concussions did not really help with that. I fought concussions like all through, like even before, like I'll be 50 next year. So I was still at the tail end of like smelling salts, like just smell this. And are you okay? Yep. Like we had a trainer, I won't even say his name because I mean, people for miles and miles around will know exactly what I'm talking about. But he was like, there's like broken bones and be like, let's tape it. And you're like, okay, like it looks like it's pretty broken. And like it's a finger, just tape it to the other one, bone sticking out. Like he just didn't care. So it was the same with concussions at that point. Like,
Yeah. You play through it.
yeah. Yeah, you didn't get there was no do a times table or count backwards from 10. Like I still can't count backwards from 10. Like and I'm not concussed. So you just went in and played. And that taught me a lot. Like you just deal with the pain and adversity. And, if you're going to go out, like for me, like going into my senior year, I had a slight tear on my Achilles, very small. And nowadays you'd be in a boot, you'd be done for 6, 8 months. Like they would just tell you. And I remember being like, I could either let this junior kid take my spot at middle linebacker, or I can tape this thing up and eat 4 Advil and go and show up to practice pain every single day. And I remember for like 3 weeks, it was terrible. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. I think it's going to finally give. And it just all worked out. Like I got my spot. I played through the pain, like the successes from seeing what the bottom looked like, getting to the top
Yeah.
it just was that much better. And I feel like nowadays kids just be like, well, I said I couldn't play. And they just take it like, okay, what are you going to do about that? Nothing. They said I couldn't play. Who's they? Like that doctor's not like your parent. Like I wouldn't coach like that, but like I just talk to a lot of young people still that are like, well, they just like I'm out. Like I have nephews and godsons who will be like, yeah, like I'm injured, I'm out. I'm like, what's wrong? Well, ankle. Like I know what's wrong with your ankle. It's like I've tore a ligament. I'm like, that means it's sprained. Like that's not like I don't know. I'm just from a different school, but football taught me that if you weren't tough, game over. Like there's no second chances for people that are not necessarily like if real injury is real injury, but if you're weak minded, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can't overcome some adversity, which there's always going to be adversity,
Yeah.
no one's going to hold your hand and walk you in there.
Right.
I mean, that's the best thing about football because you have 11 guys that are going to eat your lunch if you don't perform. You could go out and play golf. If you play shitty, the only one you're going to be mad at is you. Like no one cares. A single man sports. Like I have a good friend Bert who like threw the hammer in college and was a gangster at it. But those sports that are by themselves, like you're the only one that's going to disappoint. You are going to disappoint yourself. Maybe your team for points, but when you're on, as you know, when you're on the field with a team or on the court with a team, there's truly, and it's cliche, there is no I. Like, you cannot do it by yourself. And if you think you can, you are in big trouble. And there's still people like there's people like that in business that come into these big meetings and deals that think like, I don't need these young like team members with me. I can do this all by myself. And then they almost always fail because they have that they lead with their ego and they don't allow young, new, fresh ideas to come up from the bottom.
Right.
And they don't ever train their replacement, so they can't ever go anywhere. It's just I've seen it from high school all the way through my professional career as a business person. Like, that egocentric and ego driven person is always there. And if you don't know how to deal with it, you don't learn how to deal with it when you're young, you'll be eaten alive by the time you're like get into a real job. That person will be your bully. They're your nightmare because you won't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. One of the things that I find very interesting about team sports in regards to hunting is I like to do, I like to hunt with other people. You know, obviously, hunting solo is its own beautiful adventure. Uh, but I'm always like, I like to turn to somebody and say, "Did you see that?" Or, I don't know if that's because I was always a team sport athlete, but do you like to hunt with others, or do you prefer hunt solo or a combination?
I do. I will hunt solo if I don't have any, like, I won't stay home because somebody won't go with me because I really find nature to be really healing and just like really like from I love being in the woods. It's my favorite place to be. Whether I'm with somebody, whether I'm with my dogs or my wife or my kids or my buddies. But I do agree. Like, hunting with somebody else, sharing those joyful experiences is so much better. I mean, I killed my first mule deer with my bow by myself. And the only person I talked to was my GoPro. Like, holy shit, did you see that? Like, hoping that I was like talking to my kids. And I'm pretending I know when I talk to my GoPro, like I'm talking to my kids because I couldn't be there. And I was just over the moon excited.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. Like, it's not the same as like I was lucky. I was in New Mexico this last weekend for antelope, and like being able to look at somebody and be like, "Oh my gosh, did you see that?" You're exactly like you said. It's it's better. It feeds. We're all have an ego, whether we want to deny it or not. And I give people with huge egos a lot of shit, but it feels really good to have somebody look at you and be like, "That was awesome," because it's just what we're made for. Like,
Yeah.
we're made to be. It's nice to be complimented sometimes, especially when you're doing really cool stuff and bringing stuff home to your family and feeding your family still in the freezer, and to be complimented on it. Man, that's the best of both worlds right there.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh man, you're speaking my language. You're getting me all jacked up because I want to have that experience again, like right now. Like,
Oh, I am so fortunate. I'm fortunate first because of my amazing wife and my kids. I don't know how I got this fortunate, but right behind that is my job.
yeah,
Like, I work for an incredible company that takes care of so many people in this community and takes care of hundreds of families that work for us. And that's their focus. Their focus is not profit. I know that it is a focus, but their focus are the people that work for them. And it's written on every employee's face for the most part. We have the young ones that just started that are, the kids that ask for a raise like day 3. You're like, for what? But you also have like literally hundreds of people that work there that have been there. We have people that have been there over 30 years, several that I actually had a photo shoot with one guy yesterday because he said some amazing things in he got his 33-year like award a couple weeks ago. And some of the things he said in them, like in his presentation, I was writing down because they were so monumental. They were just wonderful quotes about his time with the company and talking about the same things we've been talking about, like how hard it was and how that hardship strengthened his bond like with the Nosler family and how it helped him through adversity and how it helped him be there for 30 plus years and have this outstanding career with a family owned business, which is almost unheard of. And he's about to retire. And it's things like that that just like make me so, so happy that I get to work there. But my job is also really awesome. I have a really neat job. My job is to build relationships with people like you people in the industry, people that are like-minded, and to also flush out the people that say they're like you and I and are just like snakes in the grass looking for likes. You know what I mean? The people that are just truly leading with their ego and don't care about Nosler, don't care about the families that work for Nosler. They just care about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty awesome to be able to weed out a lot of those people, not for them, but for our company and for me, like to see, like, man, you're not in this for us. Like, if you're not in this for us, and I mean myself and the entire Nosler family and all the people that work there, then you're not in it for, like, then we're not in it for you. Because if we're going to pick somebody up as a sponsor or an influencer or any sort of talent, a photographer, like, we're not just supporting them, we're supporting everything they stand for and the company they work for. And it goes down the line. It's really important from the Nosler family that we have a huge foundation and that we look for people to talk to, podcasts, talent, anything. We want to work with people and companies that have that same foundational belief that we're America first. And America first means you take care of each other, regardless of what your political view is, regardless of what your religious view is. If you're an American and you want to work hard, you have a place to come when you get to Nosler. Like, you just show up and we're going to square you away. If you're willing to work hard, like, if you come as an anti-hunter, you might have a rough few weeks, but
we'll convert you.
It's not to say that we wouldn't, like, it doesn't mean that you're not hireable. It just means, like, we're going to try to convince you in a kind way and be like, and try to tell you that's important to be able to learn how to feed your family. And if you really want to eat organic, let me take you out and show you how to do that.
Right.
It doesn't mean shooting trophies. It means shooting healthy animals in season with the ODFW's like blessing and the rules that they provide, which is for people that don't live in Oregon, that's our Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. Like, they set standards and tags. We follow those rules, and you get to go out and you have an opportunity every year to, I mean, at least for us, I mean, we almost primarily ate nothing but like elk for most of our protein for several years.
Yeah.
So my wife doesn't like mule deer, which is fine. We just made summer sausage out of it. But she loves moose, which I've never killed. And I am so fortunate to work with so many people that hunt that, like, if you want some moose or some bear or even cougar, like, you can always find some wild game at my office, which is another great thing.
That's
but
awesome.
I get to hunt a lot, and I'm very fortunate for it.
Well, Nosler seems like a really cool company just in general. I mean, I got to speak with John Nosler, another college football player. Like, respect. I almost went to his school and played. They wanted me heavily.
Yeah.
But
he's all American, little fast kid. I went to high school with John too, and he still is. Well, he's not still. I don't think he's still fast. I might race him now, but he was the fastest human I've ever seen. And his kids are faster. It's crazy. I love his kids, but he was an amazing college football player. And he was an even a better college jumper, like long jump, triple jump.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yep. He coached Ashton Eaton, who was the decathlete, the gold medal decathlete. Was that 4 years ago? Ashton went to Mountain View High School, the same high school that we went to. So, yeah, John is an awesome human. He's not going to listen to this, so I'm not kissing his ass, but I do respect him a lot just for how much he takes care of all those people that work at our company. It's pretty special to watch.
Yeah. What's it like working well, let me say this. What's it like working in the hunting industry? I feel like from the outside looking in, even before I started podcasting and creating all my content, I was like, dude, that seems awesome. Like, getting to work in
It
the
is.
industry with your passion.
Especially coming from from the industry I came from, which is a whole nother podcast, but was the cannabis industry. That was going into the hunting industry was a pretty awesome breath of fresh air. Like, holy, and I mean that like literally and figuratively.
Like real fresh air.
Yeah, it was. So I kind of got to see the bottom. You know, we keep going back to that bottom of the valley, top of the mountain, like not with people or the people were wonderful, but like just the being such a new, weird industry with tons of like bad people in it, like criminal people. Like the good people were great, but when the people were bad, they were super bad. And then coming into the hunting industry, which I've hunted for a long time now, it was really refreshing, um, just to have that positive, like encouraging, like vibe all the time, especially from the Nosler family. Like they want you to hunt. If you want to hunt, they want you to hunt. Like they don't want to stop you. I mean, for years and years, like for deer season, Nosler was closed. I mean, if we could, we would now still, but we're our bullets are popular, so we don't do that anymore. But the whole company is based around family first, like faith second, and that leads to such an awesome environment. And I know lots of people in this industry, and I know people that work for the biggest companies down to like two-man companies, and I feel pretty lucky that I get to work at what I consider the best company because they just look out for each other. And there are companies in this industry that are not like that. They are very kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, very egocentric. Their product, they'll fight to the death that their product's the best, which that's awesome. But like people are going to have their opinions, and a lot of times it's based on where they live or who they grew up with or what their dad told them to shoot. Like I'm not going to get in an argument with somebody over a bullet. Like our competitors, for the most part, like make really great stuff. Like Hornady makes a great bullet, and I know that the Hornady family is just as awesome to their staff. And I've never met that family, but I've heard nothing but good things. So I know that there's a lot of cool companies out there, and I feel like I'm just really fortunate to work for the one that is also happens to be in my town. So it's pretty handy.
Yeah, that's quite nice. The commute's got to be awesome. One of the
Yeah,
things,
it does.
being from the Pacific Northwest, West Coast, Nosler is an anchor uh, company within the outdoors. Like, oh yeah, it's your local ammunition company. Moving to Texas, Nosler, like I go, so Academy Sports is like the
Hmm.
for those of you who are listening
I'm
and
very
you're
familiar with
you're
Academy.
you're not familiar with Academy Sports, it's like the what Sports Authority or Gart Sports back in the day used to be like, or Sports Mart, or it's you got everything, you got hunting. It's what Dick's Sporting Goods used to be before they went woke and got rid of their hunting department, which is like boo, get out of here with that weak sauce. Anyways, I walked down the aisle, the ammunition aisle in Academy, and I don't even see Nosler ammo. And I have to go to more like, I hate to say it, but like boutique gun shops or ammo shops to find Nosler, and I'm like, huh, interesting. What's up with that? It,
Well, it's funny because we get a lot of flack for that. We really do. We get a lot of flack for I can't find your stuff, and there's people that have been shooting certain types of bullets, like the partition and like the 180 grain Accubon, like forever. And when you can't find it, it's your gun shoots it. Your favorite like barrel loves that round. It is frustrating, and we understand. The hard thing is that we have run out of space. I mean, it's not that we're not trying. We run 24/7, 3 shifts all the time. Like we're never not making bullets and brass ever.
wow.
But 4th of July, Christmas, the standard operating, like, but even then, we've got these old 30, 40-year-old warriors that'll still go in there and like fix bullet presses. Like it's no joke. We have we're about to break ground on a new pretty incredible facility just in our little sister town. Man, if you live in Redmond, you're not going to like that. The towns don't necessarily like each other, but we're moving. The whole company is going to be like just switching towns. It's like a 14-mile commute. We already have a large facility there where we do all of our loading, our brass manufacturing, and a lot of our packaging is done there. But we have another, I think it's 90 acres there. So we're going to 100,000, maybe a little more. There's like 105,000 square foot building that's being constructed right after we do our new shooting tunnel. At that point, all those presses that we have that sit. We live in a state where OSHA is very prevalent. So if you have a machine too close together, like even though you just built this brand new press, if it's too close to the other press, you can't have that in that room. So where are we supposed to put it? I mean, we've got a lot of machines that are not being utilized at all. And so that is what it's not press, but I mean, they're always thinking innovation, but the family has been working on this property and this new building for years, and that's about to start. That'll be the first thing, right? We'll add a ton more space, which means all of those presses that we have that are sitting and not being utilized will immediately be utilized. The other thing is that we've refused to like take the easy route. Like I don't know for a fact, but I do know that we've been like the company's been teased and offered to move to other states, but I know for a fact that that family's not going to leave all these people here. They're not. Like we have employees that have been here. There are so many employees that have spent their entire life with Nosler. And I just don't think anyone has the heart to do that. To be like, we're going to move and like train all new people. It would cost it would cost literally probably in the tens of millions of dollars to retrain the staff to do that. So the options are to move to a different state, take giant cuts and take the buildings that they would want to give you, or stay in the state that raised you with the people that got you there and just keep expanding slowly. Because if we do that, we're always going to be able to keep up. But right now, when your shelves are empty, it's not because we were like, oh, we're good, we have our feet up. It's because our products sell out really fast because they work really, really well. I mean, if you've ever shot an Accubond, a partition, or a ballistic tip of ours, you know that they work. And there'll be the trolls that say that they don't, and that's fine. I love those guys. It's my favorite thing to do is to like have our staff bring in Instagram quotes from like my 2 cents 87. Like those guys are awesome. But the reason we're always sold out across the entire country is because people will stock up on our stuff because they know that we have some of the highest standards in the country for like compliance. We actually still look at bullets with human eyes. Every single bullet, every single projectile goes past a person. And if there's a blem, a shadow, a shape, that bullet gets pulled into our seconds. So we have, and then not to mention that our technology and the bullets that we make, we don't make a cup and draw bullet. I mean, we do, like we make a standard like target bullet, but our Accubond and our partition are very hard to make and take multiple presses to make it. So it's not just saying like boom stamp bullet. It's boom stamp part 1, boom stamp insert like the tip, boom stamp make the Accubond jacket, and then bond the lead to the core. Or bond the core to the outside of the jacket. It's a monumental process that once hopefully you'll get to come to Oregon and see, you'll understand like why our pricing is a little different and why sometimes it's so hard to find. It's because people will pay that price because they know that it's going to work pretty much every time. There's those few, but if I just get to talk to so many fans about like when my dad told me the only thing I'd ever need is a Nosler. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. Or my grandpa told me, or sending me box of like our original solid base from like the 60s or the original partitions from the 50s. Because people don't realize that we're a 77-year-old company that was designed, like our first bullet was designed because John's grandfather, John Sr., went up to Alaska and like hunt of a lifetime for him, like an absolute like bucket list, punched it, and he goes up and finds this giant moose and shoots him multiple times and the bullet just pencils through him. So he's torturing this animal, which there's those tough guy bravado guys that talk about how I shot him 5 times, but like if you're a real man, you don't want to see something suffer and you want to harvest it clean and humanely right away. And John saw that the existing technology at the time was not doing that. It was causing a ton of pain, and it was causing him a lot of pain trying to chase that giant ass moose down running through the tundra. So he came back to Oregon and got on the drawing board, engineer by trade, and that's when the partition was born. And those bullets all used to be made on a lathe. I mean, the history is fascinating. And the fact that we still follow those same guidelines, we don't use a lathe anymore, but we follow those same standards of excellence for every bullet we make, which is, I know that's a really long answer to your short question, but you can't find bullets. There's a reason. And you should also check our website out, because a lot of times people don't even realize like that we have a website, and a lot of times we are out there too. But on the website, at least you can say, notify me when it's available, and you'll get the email. A lot
Yeah.
of people will get the email and they'll wait a week and then it'll be out. But and then they send the complaining email. But yeah, if
Right.
you get that email when we have it, order it. Like, the prices are the same as you're going to get in the store. We're not going to undercut our distributors. So you're going to pay the same as you would at, one of the big box stores, but at
Yeah.
least you can find it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's good to
So,
know. I like hearing that. I love good stories. I think that's the beauty of hunting, and why hunting with other people I really enjoy, is because mankind was raised around a fire and storytelling, right? Like, give me some substance, give me some entertainment in regards of like something that then inspires me to create, inspires me to go on my own adventure, and all that. You asked me earlier before I told a really long-winded elk story. What's my bucket?
killer story, by the way.
Thank you. Like, what's my bucket list? I was actually, before COVID, was planning on going to Alaska for my 40th birthday to shoot moose. That was my goal. It would have been this year, this month, next month. That didn't happen, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. At some point, that is my goal, to get up there and arrow a big old bull. Um, but
Oh, you're going to do it with your bow.
I want to, but I don't know. Maybe I got to bring both. I don't want to not be able to come back with an animal if I can't get within bow range.
Oh no, I'm with you. I primarily bow hunt. Like, I rifle hunt when I'm at work because I have to, and because our stuff works really well. And it would be real awkward if I showed up at a nozzle hunt with a Matthews bow. But I primarily my passion is truly bow hunting, getting in that close, especially for elk. It's like I said, there's nothing like it in the world.
Man, that's so cool. So, can we expect Nosler ammo to start hitting the East Coast, the South, the Midwest a whole lot more now once Redmond, this new facility, kicks up?
I think so. I mean, I don't have a magic lamp, and making simple cup and core bullets is a lot easier than some of the bullets we make. So that is the hope. We're going to streamline so many different processes, including the shipping process. Like, raw materials in one door, and the door next to it is where the in goods come out. And right now, because we're so old and we have so many different facilities in different areas and people, and like, no fault of our own, but the inefficiencies like are obvious, and that is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to really sort that out by moving ahead, and there's never a good time, right? It's always like, oh, the interest rates are too high. If the interest rates are great, then the prices to build are too high. So it's this balancing act of trying to find the right time. And I think the right time is right now, and I think the family thinks the same thing. So that building's gonna start. It's gonna be pretty neat. We're gonna put in a 100-yard above ground tunnel, which we do currently have a 100-yard tunnel. It's under our building, but it's real small. Like, we're shooting through tubes. This will be a full standing, like, it'll be a facility in itself, which will be really cool, because we shoot, I think it's every 1,000, 2,000. Don't quote me on any of that, but they shoot all day long to test the lots. Like, the lot has to shoot a certain group type. It has to be perfect out of a firearm before they'll send it through to be inspected by, like, all those people that inspect our bullets. So I think you can expect it in the future. In the meantime, I mean, there's no harm in going to, like, the retailers that carry it online, like Optics Planet, Midway, some of those other companies that they carry us online. We have great relationships with those guys. And then go to your Sportsman's Warehouse, your Shields, or gosh, what's the one in Texas? You just mentioned it. Like,
Academy.
they sell us too. I know that we have deals with Academy. At least I hope we do. If not, if you're listening from Academy, you should call us. I'm not in sales, so don't quote me on any of this stuff. But I feel like the word is spreading, and it's starting to. We used to be known as that big, that big Western, like Northwestern brand, like elk, mule deer, sheep, and then like the whitetail market, I'd be like, who's this Nosler? Like they still, there's a huge portion of the country that doesn't know who we are. And a lot of that is our fault because we have such high standards and there's so much technology involved with how well our bullets perform that they inherently cost more to make. But we are working on a system now I mean, there's been rapid advances in bullet press technology, and I can't really talk to it now, but like in October, you're going to see a couple new products come out from us that are going to really, it's going to take a lot of people back. It's going to shock some people. But I really can't speak to it, but I can't, maybe we can do this again in November. Or when you see it in October, you'll be like, oh crap, that's what that guy was talking about. But it'll be obvious when you see it on the shelves, and I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Brother, what's on the horizon for you?
Um, Gosh, right now my wife just got a bow. It's like pretty high on my priority list to get her in front of an elk in the next 2 years. Like I'm not going to take her this year. I've seen that movie. I know how that ends, but she's with our kids all gone. She's real passionate, and she really wants to she really wants to harvest an elk with that bow. And there's nothing I want more for her. I would just be, I mean, I'm sure you're similar. I would much rather be standing next to somebody that I love and watch them be successful and get to feel that feeling that I have been so fortunate to feel so many times. Cause it's like me feeling it again for the first time. It's like you get to just soak it up. And that's when you get to look at that person and be like, I know, right? Like they finally get to feel that feeling that you've been telling them about forever. So her getting an elk is a huge priority. My kids continuing to be successful in the woods, whatever I can do to do that before they don't want me to go with them anymore. And then, my everyone always asks what's on my bucket list, and it's always archery elk because there's just nothing for me. There's a lot of animals. I've been so fortunate to harvest some really neat species and some just amazing places. But at the end of the day, put me in the wilderness with my bow and just leave me alone because that's just my happy place.
I love that. I love that. All right, well, here's a question I want to ask you. I like to ask a lot of my guests this is because I know the power that hunting holds and the ability to transform lives through primal adventure. So, what has hunting done for you?
That is such a great question. And it has so many levels. Like I think I'm gonna give you the shortest answer possible without talking until like you have to go to bed. But for me, really, hunting has provided me with the ability to provide for myself.
Mm.
Like something I never grew up with, where I always assumed like if there wasn't somebody, like if the stores were empty, we'd all be dead. Like if my mom could go to the store as a single mom, like I don't know what I would do. Like, you know, and for me, it started with like I want to be able to have those experiences that I see all my friends having. And now it's ended with I know that at any time I can provide for my family. And we're to a point now where like three kids could also provide for this family. And I'm really close to being where my wife can provide. Now my wife can damn sure like cut that animal up into exactly what we want and is the best chef I've ever met. But being able to bring that sustenance into your house and not have to rely on any other person in the world is to me it's a scary feeling if you ever think you really gonna have to use it, but at the same time if you know that you have that skill in your pocket, there's just not a whole lot of scary things anymore.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? I love that. You know, I got a couple ideas up my sleeve as far as books and things that I want to share and seminar talks that I'm planning on building and in the works of building. And one of them ties around Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory of human motivation, and it's a pyramid. And how Maslow explains is that there's five levels to it. The bottom level is what motivates humans, right? Like what motivates you to get out of bed or to do anything else? And that first is uh, food, water, shelter. Like if you don't have food, you don't have water, you don't have shelter, it doesn't matter if that pretty girl wants to go out on a date with you or if, what career you have lined up for you down the road. Like nothing else matters. Then after that is family and security. We want to, we want to feel secure, safety, security, and then the next level after that, and you can't get to the next level until that need is met, right? So I can't think about family until I have shelter, I have food, I have water, and I can't think about what type of job I want to have or what type of career I want to do or what do I want to be when I grow up unless all these lower levels are met. Um, and so what you're talking about right there is hunting for you provided you the ability to move up that pyramid to get to what is ultimately the top of that pyramid is self-actualization. The idea that you can no longer have to focus on you, you get to focus outward on other people.
It's my favorite thing to do. That's awesome.
And I love hearing you say that, and that's beautiful. So you can look that up tomorrow when you're at work and show everybody at the office. Be like, hey, man, check this out. Look what I learned last night on the podcast.
I'm almost to the top, everybody. Good luck catching me. Yeah, you talk about like the reason you get up in the morning. It's funny because like all those are true, and I also have like that beautiful curly haired lady that I sleep next to. That if my alarm's going off, I'm gonna get up because I'm afraid I'm gonna wake her up. So I am still afraid of my wife. That's the one thing I am still very much afraid of. So keeps me honest.
Not afraid of the boogeyman, but my wife, let me tell you.
No, sir, I'm not afraid of much, but that she's a little 120 pounds of fury in there. So
I love it. Well, brother, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, your journey. You've really inspired me. I'm a firm believer that inspired people inspire other people. And hearing you speak with passion, with reverence, like you're getting me fired up for hunting season. You're getting me fired up for things to come and to just make myself a better human and make this world a better place. So thank you. Thank you
absolutely,
very much.
man. It's been my pleasure. I could not be happier that I took this invitation. So I'm not good at sitting down in one place for longer than a few minutes. So I don't even know what time it is. So that means I've had a really good time. It's been an absolute joy. Hopefully one day we get to share a camp or at least some more stories together. That would be a real pleasure for me.
That would.
And I just want to remind your viewers, like, if you really want to save this country and put your money where your mouth is, like American made, there aren't a lot of companies that really are American made. So look deep. And when you look deep, you're going to see a few of those ammo manufacturers, including Nosler, are truly not only American made, but American put together, American fabricated, American ingenuity, American engineers, like from the bottom up. And those are the companies that are going to be here long after those false prophets that say that they're American made are gone. So yeah. I appreciate you supporting companies like ours, and all those families that work for us appreciate it too.
Oh man, that's awesome. I love it. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this podcast and you made it to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Make sure to go leave a rating, leave a review, subscribe, share it. Share the good word, right? Just like hunting, if we want it to last for generations to come, or if it makes an impact in your life, the best thing we can do is to give it away. Give it away, allow other people to have the opportunity to listen to this. You don't know what type of seed is planted and how their life is going to be impacted and transformed. Remember that if you do not say anything, then you are already saying something. So it's important to take a stand for what you believe in. Remember that life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. No victims here. Be blessed. Until the next episode, I'm Johnny Mack for John Nason at Nosler. Be blessed, freedom on, and as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group. As I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode, so stay tuned and stay soulful.